You don't think we will see a financial crisis anytime soon? We haven't seen one in 10 years now.
Someone asked me once, what are the odds of a recession? I said 100%. I just don't know if it's 2 years away, 3 years away, 4 years away.
What is the biggest misconception about Wall Street in your mind?
Modern financial society is rather new. 1,000 years from now, they're probably laughing at us at what we did.
But does that mean the machine going to replace human beings?
That has been true our whole lives, that technology's, quote, replacing jobs.
After the financial crisis, actually, you deal with kind of personal crisis. You come up from a very serious illness. I just wonder whether that changed your attitude toward career or life.
And I use the word deliberate. You want to live a little more deliberately. You don't want to act like, because you don't think you can live forever anymore.
You don't think we will see a financial crisis anytime soon? We haven't seen one in 10 years now.
When you say financial crisis, I don't think you'll see a financial crisis like we had in 2009. The system is far stronger, far more capable. You may very well see a crisis or a recession. You know you're going to have a crisis or recession. There's always a crisis or recession. I don't know when. Someone asked me once, what are the odds of a recession? I said 100%. I just don't know if it's 2 years away, 3 years away, 4 years away. But right now, it looks like the global system is rather healthy, rather strong. If you look at sector by sector, they're in pretty good shape. Credit's been underwritten, has been pretty good. Workers are coming back to the workforce. So I think it looks okay for now.
If we talk about the lessons we learned from financial crisis, I know that after the financial crisis, Wall Street under a lot of pressure. What is the biggest misconception about Wall Street in your mind?
Well, there are a couple. So one is, first of all, people learn all the wrong things from lessons, and it takes the history writers to then look back on what really happened and the anatomy of a failure. It wasn't one thing; it was a whole series of things that took place over 15 years. And of course, when a crisis happens, the immediate response generally is scapegoating, and they look at what happened year over year like that was the problem. No, our mortgage problem started. There was 10 years of bad policy. And banks did it, the government did a whole bunch of bills, but no one did it originally with bad intent. People thought that people owning homes was a great thing, and we could make it easier and easier, and there were no losses. And of course, there became more and more speculation, more and more big data, more and more fraud involved. People stretched too far, both investors, banks, individuals, and it blew up. And then, in the history lesson is that bad policy gets made, some good, some bad. You have to recognize it was a flaw. You should fix the bad stuff. You should try not to overreact. The overreaction slows down growth and makes it worse. And so we had a little bit of that. But the biggest lessons, for a financial institution, there's capital, liquidity. Like J.P. Morgan didn't need TARP, and we were never in need of government assistance at all. But I tell people, when we went into the crisis, we had no unsecured short-term funding. There are other banks and that's the riskiest thing on a financial institution. It's the riskiest thing on anyone's balance sheet, because that is fickle funding. The day that people walk in, there's a problem, they pull that. They don't have a moral obligation to keep that. They don't say, well, leave your deposit or leave your commercial paper, so-and-so. I'm not taking any risk for 3 basis points, and we had none. So we never had that kind of like panic and rush on funding sources. And there are tons of lessons. Every year I write something in my chairman's letter about it. Mm-hmm. And then looking back, you realize there were other issues involved too. So a lot to learn. Modern financial society is rather new. 1,000 years from now, they're probably laughing at us at what we did, because they'll know a lot more on how these things interrelated and how they should work, and have a lot more tools in their hands on how to diminish, how to diminish the rocking and rolling that takes place, like they do in aircraft today. You have a real sophisticated cockpit. They didn't have that, 30 years ago, and you're going to have more and more of that around managing economies, in my opinion.
China is committed to open more to the financial sectors, and the PBOC's new governor, Yi Gang, already announced the timetable and some measures. So what's the next plan for JP Morgan Chase in China?
Yeah, so we've been in China a long time, and we do all of our business in China. So investment banking, basic banking like cash management, investment management. And China is going to grow enormously over the next 40 years. So we want to have a full-scale, large bank like we have in this building that serves Chinese companies and across the whole board. So once we have these licenses, we're going to be making large investments continuously pretty much over decades.
So when do you expect to have like wholly, fully owned JP Morgan Bank in China?
Well, we're already there, and some of these things are already there. In some we have joint ventures, and of course they have to pass the final rules, I think, for us to actually know when it's going to take place. But before the final rules are in place, if we own 51% and we have the full license to buy and sell stocks and bonds and do research and do M&A, you'll see us start growing what we do mostly out of Shanghai almost immediately. And so we've been talking internally about what our plans will be, and that'll be the full spectrum of plans. And including research, including credit advice for corporations or state-owned enterprises, how they should manage their balance sheet, et cetera. Helping some of those companies as they go overseas, and also helping a lot of foreign companies go to China. So all that's going to be important for us.
And compared to the local players, what competitive advantage do you think JP Morgan have, and what is the advantage?
Yeah, so the local players are very big and very strong. That's true in a lot of countries, by the way, and I expect the Chinese banks to get even bigger and even stronger, which is why I want to be able to fully compete with them. But right now, the biggest advantage we have is probably this global network, mostly outside of China. So we already bank a lot of these clients. When they go to China, it's a natural market for us to open up their banking accounts and do their foreign exchange or interest rate swaps, et cetera. And advising Chinese companies, whether they're going to Brazil, the United States, or London, we have the expertise and the advice to bring to those companies. We have the expertise and advice to bring to companies locally about credit ratings, how what you disclose to the public, corporate governance. So to try to help companies set standards that make them better public entities or even private entities. And not that the Chinese investment banks can't do it. We can do it globally quite well.
But you're afraid that ICBC is going to eat your pie in international market?
I don't think anyone's going to eat our pie, but I think that ICBC appropriately is ambitious and is going to grow, and you should expect them to, right? That's I would be if I was running ICBC. And they are large. They have a huge home market, and they have their own companies going overseas. So they also have what I call a natural market to serve Chinese companies that go overseas as they become strong overseas to serve other companies going into China. So they will be a major competitor.
As you mentioned, JP Morgan already have a lot of Chinese companies go global. So what's your observation of those Chinese companies in terms of the ambition and maybe performance overseas?
Yeah, I think they're doing the right thing, which is China is now, I think it houses 20% of the Fortune 1000. It's going to be 40% of the Fortune 1000 probably in the year 2030 or 2035. It's a natural thing for a company with a large home market to also say, I want to expand overseas, both to expand their product sales overseas, but also to get expertise, to get management. And like all those things, business is hard. Some succeed and some don't. But I think it makes sense for the Chinese to use some of their capital to do things like that. And we've been trying to help some of those companies that do it overseas. So.
Now I switch to the technology part a little bit because a lot of people call JP Morgan is more like a technology company rather than a financial institution. And in your annual letter released this February, the market noticed that the disruptive technology, including cryptocurrency, has been listed in the risk factor. And you have been skeptical about the Bitcoin publicly, but you support the underlying technology, blockchain. Why is that?
Yeah, blockchain has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. I mean, people have to separate them. Blockchain is a technology of a master file that could be encrypted, encoded, and shared equally. We keep equal copies and always updated. So think of it as instead of me keeping a file here of an agreement we both have a complete file and it's certified by independent people every time we do something, every time we buy or sell. And it's got all the other data. So remember, you buy or sell a loan, there are covenants, there are prior owners, there are tax consequences, and so that we're testing that. That actually works. And it'll be rolled out as use cases, and it could be public or private. It could be 5 people or 50,000 people, and we think it'll be rolled out. I don't think it'll be earth-shattering, to tell you the truth, because you have to write the code to set. So we have to agree to protocols, who's involved, how it's going to work, make sure it's secure and encrypted. And currency is a whole different thing. Now you can use a blockchain for the so-called cryptocurrency. You can use a blockchain for RMB currency, but RMB is supported by the laws of China. The Central Bank of China, and I think that's a whole different thing. So yes, I'm skeptical of cryptocurrencies, but not blockchain and not currencies. We move a lot of money around the world right now digitally, $6 trillion a day. digitally. We don't put cash on planes. It's moving from bank accounts and around the world digitally, encrypted, safely, securely, and rather cheaply. So, but I think the bigger issue is technology is the thing that mostly drives change in the world. Growth, productivity, a lot of cultural changes. At the root of them was technological change, and you have to use technology to do a better job for your company, your shareholders, your people, your health, your air, so even if you're running China or running JP Morgan, technology, that is something you can use to do a better job. And in competitive business, if you don't use it, you lose. That is how you get better, faster, quicker, cheaper, give your client more for less, and that could be just straight through processing, that could be making it digital, that could be making it easier to do things, or whole new technology that one day I hope someone has a better technology for removing CO2 from the air, and all these various things. So I just think it's incumbent upon companies to always use technology to change and grow.
But how do you decide which technology you were invested in? Because there was an article goes viral on WeChat last year saying that JP Morgan's AI, it's called contract intelligence, could impress 360,000 hours of work into just a few seconds. So what kind of technology JP Morgan is investing right now?
So it's first of all, we sit around a room like this and go through one after another for hours. Some are things like data centers, networks, encryption, cyber. Some are software programs we're writing that we're digitizing, tons of, if I said hundreds of projects digitizing. Some are we're actually partnering with other people and buying and selling and stuff like that. So it's that broad range of stuff. One huge category is AI. I'm going to put it all together. AI, machine learning, big data, all kind of the same thing. And so those are things that used to always run risk systems. You can now run a risk system, look at 140 databases, not one, and do it in a split second, and then doing it as someone's on their phone clicking the button. So you can use that for risk, for marketing, for credit, for underwriting, for something like that. The one you're referring to, I think, and I don't remember the exact numbers, is that's reading contracts. Because you and I would have to read a contract, you'd have to have all these people do it. These things can scan, they're digitally scanning it, so it's already in the digits in the computer. They can scan these contracts in a second that would take people days and months. So if you said, I want to view all these contracts to see how many people have a reset price, these machines can do it. So this is just the beginning of AI. As this gets rolled out and people understand use cases, it'll be used for more and more things. And as our people get smarter at it, we have more and more scientists who can do it, the use case will go way up.
But does that mean the machine going to replace human beings? Like how are you going to think about
eventually, yes.
The challenge, your job challenge of the new
But
technology.
again, this narrative about that, I think people are overdoing. That has been true our whole lives, that technology's, quote, replacing jobs. So, in the United States, and it's been replacing a lot of jobs in China, but it's creating another vibrant part of China. We had 20 million people working on farms like in 1930, and now we have one or something like that. Those were back-breaking jobs. They didn't all lose their job. They went to do other things. And, and then work days have come down. If you go back to the 30s, the work day was 6 days a week. Maybe 7 days a week for a lot of people. Now it's 5 days a week. And my point is society will adjust. There's always been this pace of change of jobs, retraining, stuff like that. I do think it's faster than it used to be, and that society has to adjust faster, so that we have to do retraining better, relocation better, income assistance better, think a little bit ahead. Drivers are going to lose their jobs, what are you going to do? And it may affect Des Moines a lot less than it affects New York, so a lot of it's going to be locally. So yeah, we should applaud the rollout of technologies, which will probably save a lot of lives. But look, the backside of it is you've seen it around the world, and some of this populist disruption is from anger of people losing their jobs. And of course, when things go wrong, in a lot of countries, they blame trade, immigration, China, or technology. And that's not exactly accurate, but we can stop these people from suffering to reduce that pressure. And I think we made a mistake. I think countries made a mistake in not foreseeing some of that and doing something about it. And that particular problem, by the way, will not be fixed by government alone or by business alone. And that's why we push a lot that we need real collaboration to get this right.
The other thing is that how do you keep all those top talents in JP Morgan, let's say, competing with the Silicon Valley, the big technology giants? It could be, let's say, Facebook in United States, or it could be like Alibaba in China, right? How do you keep those talents
we have no problem. We're a great company. We do great things around the world. We're global. If you came here and you're writing code, that code that it might be on the thing for 50 million people, a day later. And so some of these other companies don't do, some of the things aren't that meaningful, so the work is meaningful. We take care of people, we treat them very respectfully, compensation is always competitive, and we need to do it. And it's fun, these global businesses are fun, so a lot of our people, they need to do things around the world. So I say financial services, it's kind of an industry where everything you touch is kind of important. You need to read the whole newspaper in the morning to know how it's going to affect you or your clients. And technology is simply the way we deliver that around the world. I said we move $6 trillion a day around the world. And we've just built some real-time systems to do that too. And we're always building systems to protect it from fraud, cyber, et cetera. So, we have fun work. We all get engaged. Senior management, down is engaged in how we get these things done.
With the disruptive technology we just mentioned, also the geopolitical tension, actually, as you mentioned, the business community actually enter into a new era with increasing uncertainty and complexity. So I'm just curious, how do you make decision for such a giant organization while staying nimble? Because Warren Buffett for Berkshire Hathaway is kind of one-man show who rely on intuition, and on the other side, Ray Dalio from Bridgewater, he respects absolute transparency and collective decision making. So what's your style?
Yeah. So first of all, I respect both those folks enormously, and they're different because they do different things. Warren is a brilliant thinker. He buys companies, let the other people run it. Ray's an investor. We have a big company. We serve clients around the world. So my number one job is to serve those clients really well. And we run the company, so we get involved in a very detailed way, very transparently. But I think Warren. I think if people weren't transparent to Warren, he wouldn't want to do business with them. So I think there's kind of a sine qua non. You are not going to make good decisions over a long period of time without the transparency. And Ray and I have spoken about this. So when we sit in this, and the management team sits in this very room, everyone gets to read everything. Everyone gets to ask all the questions they have. We have a healthy debate. We're just trying to figure out what the right thing to do is, and we make decisions. Sometimes the group gets involved, and sometimes it's individual, but we try to be very open about that. And if people weren't open, they would get a talking to. We don't allow people, I call it rope-a-dope, where you didn't get the thing to read before you got to the meeting, and 4 people are about to make a decision. That's game playing. You should be allowed to read it, give your thought and input, and generally you come to a better decision. And also remember, a lot of these things are interdisciplinary. You need technology, marketing, sales, and branch admin have to work together. You can have a great product, but if it can't be sold properly, you can't do it. If we don't have the process and technology, we can't do it. They really have to work together. I tell people sometimes we have to organize on one way or another, and we do it that way, but that doesn't mean that they don't have to talk to each other and agree together. It's kind of like if you're in an army, the people doing X have to do it at the precise time that Y needs it, have the price thing, they all work together. If they didn't work together, it would be a mess. And so I think business is kind of the same way.
What if you are under a lot of pressure? Because, in financial crisis time, you bought Bear Stearns. It has been 10 years now. I just wonder, if you could have a second choice, whether you will make the same decision.
Yeah. So, Bear Stearns, I would not buy Bear Stearns again, but that's because the price we paid at the hands of the American government after the fact was extraordinary and unfair. And I won't go through all of that. The past is past. But Bear Stearns is a perfect example of people look at the price. We actually had thousands of people working over there night after night after night to accomplish bringing the people in, treating them fairly, bringing their risk down in a way that I don't think many other people could have done it. And we did it we thought we were helping the country. And we didn't buy it because we thought it was a good buy. We got some great people, we got some nice things, but think of it as we bought $300 billion of assets all at once, and we had de-risk immediately. And so our people did unbelievable job. I'm still so damn proud of what our people did, and they worked around the clock for 6 months. This was not a short-term thing. So me negotiating, signing the contract was nothing like what we had to do immediately before and afterwards. And but we would not buy it again. I think governments have to be very careful about how they treat companies when things go wrong, because I won't go through it, but if I tell people my board wouldn't even let me take the phone call.
After the financial crisis, actually, you deal with kind of personal crisis. You come up from a very serious illness. I just wonder whether that changed your attitude toward career or life.
Surprisingly less than people think. So, if you have a life-threatening illness, it does change something, which is, and I use the word deliberate. You want to live a little more deliberately. You don't want to act like, because you don't think you can live forever anymore. So everyone knows they're going to die. Okay, but I really knew it. You don't. I can't even explain it to you. But when you're staring you in the face, you want days to count, and people to count, and relationships to count. So there's more of that. I also love what I do. I mean, it wasn't like oh my God, I want to go smell the flowers. It was, no, I love the people here. I love seeing people around the world. I like my job, and so I enjoy that. And I'm doing what I love. It isn't like I wanted to change. Some people every now and then they say, I hate my job. I'm going to go do something different, or paint, or golf, or do something. I didn't experience that.
But does that lead to the decision to team up with Amazon and Berkshire to have this new project to tackle the healthcare?
No. So first of all, there's amazing advances being made in healthcare. And I'm not a scientist, and I've participated a little bit of that, mostly by giving money to people who are doing some of this great stuff. And that's going to take place. And obviously that's great for all of mankind. Hopefully man won't be suffering so much in 50 years or 100 years. And what people go through now can be pretty barbaric. And this venture is more about, we all trust each other. We all know that in America, 18% of GDP is on healthcare now. To the extent it makes you happy and healthy, that's a good thing. But we also know a lot of it gets wasted. There's too much fraud. Things are overutilized, underutilized. End of life is painful and expensive. And therefore, we want to take a crack at that problem. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to hire some great people, brilliant CEOs, medical, big data, scientists, legal, and tell them, and we'll work with anyone who can work with us, take what we already do. We already do this for, between all of us, 1.5 million people, and let's learn about how we can do it better in a small way. It might just be this wellness program. It might be just this delivery of medicine. It might in a big way. It might be chronic care, this type of chronic care, this type of disease, or better wellness programs, or using data better. But I think in total, we will do a far better job for the customer. They'll be happier, have more choice, and it'll probably be a lower cost. And so that's what we want to get to. And maybe that's the minimum. At a maximum, maybe help inform American policy. America needs to look at its medical policy, and we need to do things differently. We have kind of the best in one way, doctors, medicines, hospitals, surgeries, and we have kind of the worst. Too many people are uninsured, some services are overutilized, some are underutilized, data is not used properly, administrative costs are too high, and we got to get at it.
The thing is, it just doesn't sound like a banker would get into. So what, in your mind, is the core value on Wall Street? Let's say to those young people, they choose Wall Street as their...
People mystify Wall Street, okay? And, there's a love-hate relationship. And part of the love-hate relationship comes because we're not just selling to you. So if you walk into a Walmart, they will take your money and you can buy whatever you want. You walk into a bank and half the time we say no. Sometimes we make you a big loan, we're partners. We put rules on you, but that's called, you need healthy capital disciplined markets. If you don't, and you can look around the world, it's a disaster. So people have this love-hate relationship, but everyone understands what a loan is, and everyone says you got to do more loans. And of course, when they went bad, people got punished, and everyone understands what equity is and what debt is, and FX and interest rate swaps. So there's really nothing that mystical. It is the cross-border, the size, the scope, the speed, the different industries, that creates a huge amount of complexity. But at the end of the day, we're making a loan to someone. We're making a loan to Tencent. We're helping raise equity. We're doing research. We move money for you. We advise you in asset management. We advise you in capital structure. That's what we do. And we're quite good at it, and every now and then we make a mistake, and I'm proud of that. Most of our people are very proud of what they do, and so for the younger people, we are a great place to work. I want them treated respectfully. We help them to the extent we can take care of themselves. If I tell our young people too, it's your job to take care of your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, your friends, your family. We can't do that for you. We can teach you about it. We can, if you fall down, we can help you up and get you the help you need. We can get you great medical programs and all these various things. But you got to think clearly about your own life. So I would tell you, you got to do that for yourself.
And what do you want to remember for your legacy?
I've never had a mystery about that because there's no one thing. It's like, oh, I want to be. Matter of fact, I always say when a CEO says they want a legacy make this part of life, say, sell the stock. Because I have to do all these things well. Managing people, buying companies, dealing with China, dealing with politicians, building technology. I just want to have done a great job while I was here. And people say, you know what, we're going to miss him. They trusted him. He set disciplines and standards. He treated people with respect. He did what he said, and he said what he did. That's all I want, nothing else.
Who from history or present day do you admire the most?
Abe Lincoln.
If not a banker, what career would you have likely to do?
Journalism.
Which leadership skills do you think are the most important?
2. One is facts, detail, analytics, etc. That deeply, discipline around that. The second one is a little humility, where when you become a leader, people have to trust you, have to work for you.
And people are curious about your time management. How does your typical day look like?
As typical, I wake up at 5 or 5:30, read my newspapers, try to get some exercise. If I do the same thing. I mean, I have meetings, some are pre-scheduled. Not every hour is blocked. I'm very disciplined what goes on the calendar. And when I go on the road, I do the same thing. I take management teams to dinner, we have a business review. I always go see clients, I always go see regulators and government officials. So I try to run that full spectrum in a disciplined way while taking care of myself. And I try to leave time on the road for exercise and try not to overeat and all that kind of stuff. So,
how long can you sleep?
It varies, but hopefully I try to get a good night's sleep every night.
How many days do you travel each year?
I actually added up last year and it was 140, which is more than I would have thought, by the way.
What's your favorite Chinese dish?
I like so many of them, hard to say.
Name 3 virtues that you wish your grandchildren would have.
Humility, perseverance, and a lifelong love of learning.
What career advice do you have to pass on to the young generation of our viewers?
Obviously, working hard, lifelong learning is one, but I think people should work smart. And I think they make a mistake and they don't try to be very efficient. Another one is, I talked about humility, but EQ. Like learning how to be trusted, making sure you know how to do a follow-up, communicating clearly to someone, being part of a team where people look, when you walk in the room, they say, she's here. Not like, oh God, she's here. It's that kind of thing. It's more of, and you can develop EQ during your life.
What makes you most proud about JP Morgan?
Well, I think it's one of the great companies on the planet. I'm so damn proud of the people they accomplish in good times and bad, and particularly in bad. And there's nothing we can't do when we set our minds to it. And if you walk around these floors, you see camaraderie, friendship, collaboration. And these are very smart people who know quite a bit. So it's been really a pleasure being here.
Yeah, we just.
You guys want all the window shades are open?
Yeah, I like the landscape.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.